What's good, y'all? And today, this is Ronnie D on TV, and we are looking at the surprise landing spots for rumored NBA trade deadline targets. Now, obviously, we all heard about the popular trades, the Zach LaVines to the Lakers, Zach LaVine to the Brooklyn Nets. Things that are necessarily quote-unquote a surprise, Kyle Kuzma to the Kings, Kyle Kuzma to the Dallas Mavericks, lots of trades like that, even Malcolm Brogdon to the Knicks. We all heard about that, but nobody's really heard about these on that Bleacher Report published by Greg Schwartz. Now, this was just yesterday. This is pretty fresh. Now, let's just kind of dive into it. Now, the first one is Bruce Brown to the Houston Rockets. Now, the thing is the Houston Rockets just got played out of the Western Conference play-in. They're on a little bit of a spell right now. They could definitely use Bruce Brown. And how does it kind of work for the team? Every contender could use Brown to plug into their rotation, as he does remain on the trade block even after moving from Indiana to the Toronto Raptors. This is one of the youngest teams that could use a multi-positional defender with playoff experience, which they don't really have besides Jeff Green, right? Now, in terms of how does it work via cap space, the Rockets can cobble enough salary together between Oladipo making $9.5 million and Jock Landale making $8 million to get closer to that Brown $22 million. And also they have a couple of draft picks and young talent that they could also sweeten the deal a little bit. Now, obviously, a lot of people know about the Knicks and the Lakers frequently mentioned, but the Rockets make a lot of sense here. And just a couple numbers why. Now, Bruce Brown, his stats this year, his counting numbers, he's at around 12 points per game. He's averaging around 4.6 rebounds and also 3 assists. His effective field goal percentage this year is at 54 on twos and 33% on threes. So it comes out to about 52.6 effective field goal percentage overall. Now, in terms of his shot distribution and where they're going to and how he allocates that, 29% of his shots are at the rim, right? So he's not much of a straight line driver. However, 41% from the mid range, and we'll dive a little more deeper into that. And a total of 30% of his shots are at the 3-point line. Okay. However, 35% of his shots from mid-range are actually short shots, which are shots between 4 feet and 14 feet, right? Which gives him a little bit of like that floater range. Now, I like the fit in terms of the Rockets to run more versatile lineups and give them a little more aggressive ball handling and aggregate ball handling to kind of pair with Jalen and Fred VanVleet, right? Rockets are currently 21st in the league in points per game at 100 points per 100 possessions at 114.3 and 24th in effective field goal percentage, shooting 53.3. So although Bruce Brown really hasn't necessarily been the best effective field goal percentage shooter this year, he's had seasons where he shot better. But with his versatility and with his ball handling and with his rim pressure, not in terms of getting to the rim, but having a great floater game and being a good member in that short roll and being able to switch, he's a great fit. The Houston defense, they have been great this year. They're 7th points per 100 possessions. And in terms of effective field goal percent shooting per, they are 7th in the league. So they've been great on defense. Now, guys, this next trade is probably my favorite in the whole Bleacher Report status. Now, this one would be Bojan Bogdanovic from the Detroit Pistons goes to the Sacramento Kings. Now, Bojan, there's lots of rumors about him. Honestly, I like the fit of him going to Sacramento more than guys like Jeremy Grant and Pascal Siakam even, because of what he brings to the table in terms of his shooting. The Kings are a team that are very clear. Their two best players. I mean, De'Aaron Fox is having a hell of a season. Sabonis is a good three-point shooter, but doesn't shoot a lot of volume. They could use some more shooting, and yes, they do have shooters. I'm not saying that. Keegan, Harrison Barnes, Malik Monk, and obviously the two aforementioned. Trey Lyles is a good shooter. But the thing is they have players that are getting paid money and that aren't necessarily stepping up, or they're not even getting playing time. And Bojan Bogdanovic can just kind of step in that role and play his job, right? He's averaging 20 points this year, 3.6 rebounds, and about 3 assists. So he brings a little bit of playmaking. Great sniper. He shoots around. Basically, he's 73rd percentile in effective field goal percentage. On twos, he's not the best. He's shooting about 51.6. But for threes, he's 86th percentile, which is amazing, shooting around 41%. Right? Now, the cool part about it is Sacramento attempts the third most amount of threes per game, 40.5, but just ranks 12th, as you guys can see, in efficiency at 37.1. So it's obviously easy to envision Bogdanovic spacing the floor for De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, both of whom are excellent passers and would find the veteran forward for plenty of open looks. Okay, now obviously, how can it get done? Detroit, they want picks, they want expiring deals, and they want people to eat up that money while they try to rebuild. So I feel like Sacramento could help them that way because they have guys that are getting paid a decent amount of money and could look for a new opportunity like Kevin Huerter and Davion Mitchell, and they have future picks that they can offer as well. Obviously, losing Pascal Siakam and maybe not getting a deal done for Jeremy Grant might not be the best per se for them, but in lots of ways, Bogdanovic is a great fit and might be better than him. In terms of how he's so good with his efficiency and where his shots go, 22% of his shots are at the rim. So obviously he's not really a straight line driver. He's not a bully player. He's not going to get to the rim at will. But that's not a problem. The Kings, to my mind, they have three guys that are great at going to the rim. Obviously, Sabonis and De'Aaron. But Malik Monk is somebody who's good at going to the rim, has a versatile game, and is very electric, and he can bring that vertical spacing, right? So by having Bogdanovic out there, top of the key, corners, long distance, he's a great player that can work with all three of their best players. And on top of that, that makes Bogdanovic or Bojan almost that third or fourth option on any given night that they can actually rely on. Right now, I feel like it's a lot of pressure for Malik Monk to step up into that role, him being that third usage rate, third ball handler. And this would make the order a lot more clear. And any given night, Bojan could go for 25. Now, 22% of his shots are at the rim, 33% are at the mid-range, and then 44% of his shots are at the three. So we all know this guy's a sniper. He's going to be shooting the ball a lot. Now, but he does love that short mid-range. 24% of his total shots are in that short 4 to 14 range. So he might not be the best at going the rim, but similar to Bruce Brown, for only shooting about 33% of his shots at the mid, 24% of his total shots are in that short mid-range. So he's really good at executing that. He's a great passer, and he's just a great complementary piece to the two superstars that the Kings have. So they've already been known for their efficient offense. Last year, they took a little step back. They love to shoot the threes, but their efficiency has kind of dipped a little bit, and it's more close to the front of the middle of the pack rather than the front like they were last year. But they're playing like as if they were still one of the best shooting teams in the league, which they're not. So having Bogdanovic go to Sacramento gives them a lot of different things, gives them some more line of versatility, him being able to run the 3 and the 4, but also being honestly, personally, I believe he would be their best shooter on the team, and he wouldn't really need to switch up his game a lot because he doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective, him being such a great three-point shooter at 42%. Okay, guys, so this next one, Zach LaVine to the Brooklyn Nets, not going to lie, I'm not even really going to get into the numbers. I know this is supposed to be surprising. I don't think this is going to happen at all. I don't think it makes any sense for Brooklyn to even consider doing anything like that. I just don't think it makes sense with their timeline unless if they think Mikal is their guy and Zach LaVine could be, the 1 or 2 with Mikal to pair with the supporting cast. I think this is just terrible for both teams. I mean, I guess the Chicago Bulls could walk away a winner here, but not really because the Nets don't really have guys that can eat up that cap space besides one guy, the aforementioned Ben Simmons, right? Now in terms of the fit, would it work? Yeah. Would the Nets improve? Yeah. But would they get better long term? And how much of an impact player is Zach LaVine nowadays, anyways? So they already possess some elite defenders. LaVine would be with McCall, Nick Claxton, DFS. Uh, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Starting five: Dinwiddie, Levine, Bridges, Cam Johnson, Claxton, and Thomas, Dorian, Finney, Rose, and Iolani. And others could get into the playoff picture and potentially play spoiler in the first round. No chance. No chance in hell. There's no chance that a team led by Zach LaVine and Mikal Bridges would play spoiler to the Milwaukee Bucks or the Boston Celtics. This team, yes, they did compete. They got crushed by the Philadelphia 76ers last year. And by adding Zach LaVine, is that going to elevate or needle move anything? Absolutely not. So I'm not even going to get into the effective field goal percentage. I'm not going to get into the numbers or dive deep into that because it just doesn't make sense for pretty much both teams. And I hate this trade idea. Okay, this next trade would be Malcolm Brogdon going to the Orlando Magic. Now, in terms of general thought process and thinking, I do like this trade. I do like the idea of Brogdon paired with Franz and Paolo, forming a trio of good ball handlers, good decision makers, and I think it'll definitely help mature Franz and Paolo to get them and hit them in spots that they don't really have a table setter. And Malcolm Brogdon's raw counting stats at 15.7 points per game, 5.3 assists, and 3.5 rebounds is going to be a good complementary piece, and it's going to excel the path and going to where they want to get and helping them get to the playoffs, which we haven't seen them get to in a long time. Now, in terms of his effective field goal percentage, it's 52.7, not the greatest. His twos are 44.7, which is 42nd percentile, so not good from twos. Threes this year is shooting 43.2, which is 92 percentile, so he's a great three-point shooter, albeit not a lot of volume and not as much as you want to see him shoot. Now the Orlando Magic have tumbled down the standings over the past month plus, going 7-14 overall since December 15th. So if you guys remember, they were a top 4 seed November and then midway through December, but now they plummeted. If they wanted to climb back into a top 6 seed, a trade will probably be required. So Bleacher Report's right by that. Bringing in a veteran point guard like Malcolm Brogdon will make a huge impact on their roster overall because Orlando ranks 27th in offense over the stretch, 110 rating, with an assist rate that also falls near the bottom of the league at 28th overall, at 17.3%. They're also one of the worst three-point shooting teams, currently tied with Memphis Grizzlies for last overall, right? So obviously a lot of that stuff Malcolm Brogdon can help with. Always a high or a very good assist to turnover ratio, and his shot selection this year has been a little different. 28% of his shots are at the rim, 35% are at the mid, and then 37% at the three. But most of his shots taken are from that long mid range. At 17% of his shots are a long mid range. So one of the least effective shots in basketball is shooting a lot of his mid range there. But in terms of the growth, Anthony Black may be the future at the position. Brogdon is an adult in the room that can shoot back on course. So I feel like he would definitely accelerate them to get to the playoffs. Who would they trade to get him is a really good question. Maybe Wendell. But this team has a place to be, and Malcolm Brogdon would help them get there. And having a lineup of Malcolm Brogdon and Franz Wagner and Paolo with basically whoever you want, okay, Kagan, Goga, or Isaiah, Jonathan Isaac at the 4, whatever they need to do, it would give them a lot more versatility and be less predictable in terms of especially a setup offense, because I feel like Franz and Paolo sometimes can be redundant. They don't really have a guy that can force mismatches or switches that the defense fears. And if Paolo and Franz, they do a two-man action, they're very redundant in a way, and a lot of teams just switch. Malcolm Brogdon would be able to have them run different coverages, and he would be the ball handler, and Paolo setting a screen, or Franz setting a screen, and it forces a little bit different look. And obviously, although Malcolm Brogdon isn't the best rim pressure guard, he does go to the rim, probably a little more than he needs to, especially if you consider his shooting from the 3. But this gives him a nice decided playmaker, no doubt. their offense would take a nice leap. Is this good enough to get them the top 6 seed? Probably not. I do think he would help out. Their team would be better on offense, but you got to think Markelle Fultz and Anthony Black and Cole Anthony. The two, Black and Fultz, are great defenders. Cole Anthony is one of the best players off the bench in the league. And where does the minutes go moving forward? Yes, Fultz deals with injuries. Cole Anthony might be injured here and there. But at that point, it makes their point guards 3 different ones or 4 different ones, and it kind of makes it a little clustered. So how would it fit? I think it would be good, but would the minutes be allocated very differently, and the team would have to adjust? Of course. So would it halt any process of Anthony Black? Probably not, or even Fultz. But their offense definitely needs to take a jump, and this will be a good trade for them. Albeit, who knows who they're going to trade, and that's why we're kind of going over this, and we'll kind of see what comes up in terms of finances. And that's pretty much it for part 1 of the video, guys, for surprising landing spots for rumored NBA trade deadline targets. I will be dropping a part 2, so just make sure you guys tune in. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Turn that notifications on as we look forward for more exciting content from the NBA season and trade deadline approaching. Thank you, guys.